So this YouTube is about the Anytone 878, it could be the 8682. It's about how the contact information is displayed on the screen. I noticed when I did an update of my contact database that there was a difference in what was being displayed. So previously I had on there the call sign, first name, last name and the rest of the information, and after I'd done my update what I actually got was a call sign and just only the first name. Now it's not really important that you get the last name, but I noticed there was a difference and I kind of wondered why. So what I'm going to show in this YouTube is how we download the database from the DMARC website, edit the fields to make it in the format that the Anytone 868878 recognises, and then upload it into the radio. So here we go. So just for some further explanation, up here you see some files. One is a CSV file from what I took from the radio. One is the CSV file that I've downloaded from DMARC, and the one at the bottom is the final one that I imported back into the radio after I'd finished. So let's get on with it. I'm going to show you now the difference that I spotted in what came out of the radio and what DMARC provided. Not very useful. Okay, so let's actually look at this. Oh, there's a face in the way. There we go. So just for simplicity, we're only going to look at the first line. So let's get a shot of all this. That way you can see. So in the top spreadsheet, you can see this entry for VE3THW, and the guy's name's Wayne. But you can see that under city it says his full name, state says Toronto, country Ontario. So it's all kind of been shifted along a bit. This entry on the bottom spreadsheet here is direct today from the DMARC database, and today is the 29th of September 2019. Interesting enough, the original contact list I pulled out of the radio was about 131,000, and now we're at 143. So that's the kind of growth. So yeah, to summarise, the info from the DMARC database is spot on in what it says, with a first name, a last name, a city, state, well, not in Canada, province, but you know, it's obviously designed around the American side of things, and country. I guess the important thing to realise here is that what the radio is actually doing is it's taking the number 1023001 and just dumping the information that's in the right fields onto the screen. So if you look back at the top entry, it's looking at 1023001 and it's dumping the name up to the screen with call sign and the first name. I don't know why there's an A in the call sign. What it does relate to is the type of license, an A, an AB, etc. Also of note there is the Anytone radio needs to have a call type and call alert defined. So let's just minimize this. Every field basically should have private call and none in there. So there we are. That's what we would like to put in at the end of the day. Now, the reason I spotted that there was a difference on the screen, because I was used to seeing a first name and a last name scroll across that screen. This is my this is what I finally put into the radio before I'm going to edit again. So these, what you see across the top here, are the correct field names for the Anytone radio. We know that because that's what was exported out of the radio. So I took the DMARC database and I renamed the fields at the top to match up with the Anytone format and placed them in this order. I'm not altogether sure that if you put them in the wrong order it wouldn't do it, but it's a CSV file and my guess is that the radio expects to find it like this, so let's give it to them like this. It's not difficult. So again, let's have a look at that first entry. Make things simple. So yeah, as I was explaining, you don't see the person's last name now. You only see their first name, but the city, state and country, etc. is all correct. Not that it displays the word city, state or country on the radio, it just dumps the actual this information here up on the screen. And that's adequate. So let's move on now to how we actually get the data to start with. Right, so let's find the user database which is on the DMARC website. Just having a little quick look in the search box, there's nothing there. Might as well put something there. Something obvious like DMR, DMR mark, there it is right there. So that's where you find it, DMR mark. Mark not like the person unless you're German, I suppose. It's M-A-R-C. So dmrmark.net, that's the good one. Now from here we go to database, which opens up another little website, radioid.net. I guess you could go direct here. And on radioid.net we want a database dump. Where do we find that? Database, there we go, just up here, the dump files, database dump files, and there's a list of all the different files. The one I took was called user.csv, that's one off the bottom there. Guess what, she downloaded already. I can click it to open it, or copy it to where you're going to work with it, which is what I do. I normally just create a folder on the desktop, copy it in there. Why is that not opened? Interesting. Anyway, user one, that was the file that came down. So this is actually what comes direct from DMARC right now. Let's have a quick shoot down to the bottom there. Where are we? 142,492 currently, yeah. And a lot of these fields you can see aren't populated because they're fed from different sources into this database. So, call sign, first name, last name, city, state, country, all this stuff's correct. Remarks. You'll notice that on the Anytone spreadsheet that I showed you, it also had an additional 2 fields. So what did I do? I took the field names from the spreadsheet that I exported out from the Anytone. I guess I should show you how we did that as well. So how do we do that? Let's run the software. So D878, there we go. Your app might be slightly different depending if you're using an 868 or an 878. There's a tool here, import export. Tool export, and you go to digital contact list, and export one out. However, I don't have a radio connected. Let's connect the radio. Here's the trusty radio, and let's connect it in. Let's close out of this because we want to go get the right COM port. In my case it's COM3. Yours might be something else. Tool, export, contact list, file name. I'm just going to say from radio. I'm not actually going to go through with this. So it's there, we hit export, and away it goes. Right, so let's see what from radio revealed for us. Just the field names, there we go. That's exactly what I wanted. So what you can do is you can copy those into the user's database from DMARC just now. I'm just going to put them loosely over here for now. So the first one that's number is in actual fact the memory number of the contact inside the Anytone radio. You can delete that because that will be added automatically by the radio itself. So then I would go here. The first contact there is probably not valid. Just delete that out. But anyway, I'm going to insert a row just for the crack, so we've got a space there. And literally, I'm going to take this information and paste it into the right, or cut and paste, so that we know what's left. So cut is a Control X on Windows. Click over here and paste. Call sign, Control X, Control V, pastes in Windows, etc. Now you notice that it only has name in the Anytone fields. It doesn't have first name, last name, right? So if you want to, you could, when we finish this section, is you could bring this up in, I would say, an Access database, and you could merge some stuff together. You could merge first name and last name together. But let's just go now, to continue this example as to how I would get this current DMARC database as of today into the radio. So we're going to say, oh hi Wayne, how are you? We're not going to say hi Goulet or Sharon, how are you? We're going to address the person by their first name, and that's the info we'll see on the screen. So it's pretty much the same order as is already there. Country. Remarks, yeah. There we go. So right now, this from row 3 down is what the Anytone radio expects. So we can select drop row 1 and 2 and just lose them, right? So you don't click here like this. You click on literally on the number 2 and the 1 like this. Right click and then delete. And that moves everything up, so you've got the correct field names at the top here. Now this is quite important, because if you want to go away and edit this in an Access database, it will use those field names, and then when you can re-export it, it will again use those field names, so everything stays constant for you. What I'll say here, I don't know for sure in Anytone, but on some other radios that I've worked with, this actually needed DMR in every cell, so this entry here for VA3 BOC would not have displayed on some other radios, and nor will these two, because they show CCS7. So you could do yourself a favour really and go through and put DMR in every one. It's really not going to matter in the scheme of things on this radio, because anything with DMR will display. I'm not altogether certain whether these ones will display, but I'm not about to wait and, you know, call up VA3 ECM and say, hey, give us a call and let me see if yours displays. If it doesn't, it will just do 102.3.002 on the screen, and it'll just be like having a new user. So the other little thing with this is the call type and alert we need to populate. So what I actually do here is I do a copy by using the shift key, the end key and the up arrow or down arrow. Now if we use the down arrow here, it's going to go right off the end of the spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm just going to put some temporary markers at the bottom there. So how do I get to the bottom without scrolling down and taking ages? I go over here to this column, just click on a cell, click the end button on the keyboard, and then press the down arrow, and then press the down arrow a couple more times. Okay, so there you can see that was a quick way to get to the bottom. So once again, that was a press and release of the end key and a press and release of the down arrow. So it was the last two fields, I think, but anyway, I'm just going to stick an X in each of these boxes here, just so we know. And to get back up to the top, guess what you can do? You can press the end key and the up arrow, end up. Now I've actually forgotten what we put in call type and call alert, so let's look at another spreadsheet that we already had from the radio. There it was, it's private call and none. Just copying those straight over. Okay, so to copy this all the way down, I'm going to press Control C on that cell. So actually, first of all, I have selected the cell that has the word private call in it. Okay, I press Control C on the keyboard and release. I click down one. I put my finger on the shift key and hold it on the shift key on the keyboard. I press and release end and then the down arrow. End and then the down arrow. And now I do Control V, which pastes. And there it is, that's in there. So I'm going to click over here, press the escape key to deselect private call. I'm going to click on none, and we're going to do that same process again. So it's Control C to copy it, click in the cell below, hold your finger on the shift key, keep it on the shift key, press the end key and release, press the down arrow and release. Okay, now release your finger off the shift key. I might have forgotten to tell you that last time. So now we're going to paste it by doing Control V. And there it is. So now to deselect the none that's at the top, we press the escape key and then just tap the down arrow. Now we want to go to the bottom, get rid of those X's that we temporarily put in there, okay? So to shoot down the bottom quickly, it's press and release the end key, press and release the down arrow. And there we are. And go down a few more. So we just want to delete out this information here. I like to actually delete the whole line, just in case it's holding anything in the background when you've pressed delete. Because I don't know. So I click over here, right click and delete, and she's done. So let's get back up to the top, end up. At this stage I would save it, and it has to be saved as a CSV. This column here you can see is unused, so really you just don't need it right now. So again, you would click on the actual D there at the top, so you're not clicking here or here or here, you're clicking on the D, right click and delete, and there it is, gone. So at this stage you would save it as a CSV. So I'm going to do File, Save As. It already has it selected there, and I'm just going to say Demo, but you could Demo Contacts Today. Call it something useful so that you can search for it in a minute to upload it to the radio. Okay, you should just have CSV. You can see in the different types of files you can select, it has a UTF-8 CSV. There are others along the way, and a Macintosh CSV, an MS-DOS CSV. We just want this one, CSV, delimited. Okay, and you just save that. So let's have a quick look in our folder. Browse. Desktop. No. Browse there. So like I said, I always have things on the desktop, so Anytone contacts today. So there should be Demo Contacts Today, and that's the file that we're going to upload into the radio in a minute. So we might as well cover that now actually. You pull up your CPS tool, your programming tool for your radio. You go to Tool, Import, Digital Contact List, and whatever you called it, in my case Demo Contacts Today. Open it. Now this stage does take quite some time. Click on Import, and she's going to start. And I'd say you're good for probably to go away and have a cup of coffee for 10 minutes, the amount of time this takes to go into the radio. We're going to come back in, I don't know, 10 minutes. Okay, at this stage you've now got your DMARC database, or contacts database, into this software but not into the radio. So if you wanted to check, you could go to this digital contacts here and click any of these. And I'm guessing the capacity is 160,000, and we're putting 143,000, was it? So if you click on one of these, I've clicked on the one to 20,000, it will load up and show you those contacts, what it actually shows for them. And there is Wayne again in Toronto at the top there, V3THW. Okay, I did forget to change the remarks. Not that I think that is hugely critical in the Anytone radio, but by default I would have changed every cell in there to be DMR, like you can see most of them. There we go. Anyway, to get that into the radio, you have to go to Program, Write to Radio. Do you want to continue? Yeah. And you would select, if you wanted to put your any code plug changes in, you have other data selected. if you're only putting the contact database in, which we are in this case, you click there for digital contact list and then click OK. And again, it's going to be another cup of coffee. That, I think the last one was about 7 minutes. So yeah, you're probably looking at the same thing again this time to actually get it into the radio. Although I think it's a bit quick. Anyway, it's a bit quicker to get it into the radio than it was to import it. I guess because everything is in the right format and the right place now. But that's what you do. You click digital contact list and OK, away she goes. I'm not going to click that because I don't want to overwrite my database that I've already put in there. Okay, at this stage you're actually done. Yeah, you can finish. But if you want to merge the first name and the last name, that's the bit we're going to cover now. Okay, so at this stage we've downloaded the DMARC database and we've changed the field names across the top. This time I've left the last name in, and I've actually just for now called the field names name 1 and name 2. The reason for that is that we're going to import this into an Access database and merge those names into one. Right, so before you can do that, this CSV file has to be saved as a XLS file or XLSX file, depending on which version of Office you have. But basically we're going to save this as an XLS, open a database and import, and that's the next step. Okay, so I've already saved this. I'm just going to hit the save button again, close down, and in this area here I'm just going to create a new database by right clicking, new, and Access database. And what should we call it? Contacts, and today's date 29. Okay, so we can open up that database. It's up to you how you actually get the database or open it. And it's empty right now, so we're going to grab that data. If it was a CSV, you probably wouldn't see it now in 2019. So external data, a new data source from file, and Excel. You'll notice here it doesn't have the option for CSV. That's why we saved it as an XLS. Okay, browse for it. Anytone contacts was my folder. There she is. It's the only thing you can see because it's just Excel. Just kind of step through. First row contains the headings. They were the field names we gave. It's pretty much a next. I would say no primary key here because we don't want it. We don't want to export it. The primary key is actually radio ID, but just say no primary key. It makes it easier later for when we're exporting it because then we don't have to delete that column. Import to table, call it whatever you like. My default is always main data. That's just how I work, but you call it whatever you like. This isn't quite a go and make yourself a coffee, but I'm going to say it's probably going to be a minute by the state of the little bar down in the bottom corner there. Keep whizzing past it. Must be here somewhere. 3373. There we go. That is indeed me. I always do this kind of check because sometimes when you export data, if there's a missing cell, it shuffles some of the information up. So it is good to make that kind of check. So yeah, that's my that's me, the full name there. All info's correct. Now we need to merge these two fields. So back into our database, to achieve what we need to do here is we need to concatenate. I do love a good concatenate. What that actually means is we're going to merge the name 1 and name 2, and we're actually going to call it name, and then just replace it. So here's what we would need to do in this case. We're going to write a quick query which selects everything basically, but just like name 1 and 2. So let's just knock up a query. This isn't a access tutorial, but it just points you in the right direction as to what you need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a query which covers all of these fields, and we're going to create an additional field at the end called name. So let's create that query. This isn't an access course by any stretch of the imagination. It will just show you how I've achieved it, maybe give you some ideas how you can achieve it. So I want every one of those fields in there, so just double click on each one in order. And then run it. So there essentially is the same table. At this point I would save this this query. You can do that by trying to exit it, and it will ask you what you want to save it as. So I'm going to call it concatenate, even though we haven't done it yet. That's the bit we're going to do next, and hopefully I've spelt that right. So we can close that main data table, concatenate. There we are. So in this view here, we need to move to one of these boxes that's spare, and we're going to give it a field name and what it's actually doing. Alright, let's create a bit more space here. So the field name is going to be called name, and a colon, and we put a space in there, and we're going to use the square brackets, and we're going to type in there name 1 and name 2. So name 1, close that square bracket, and then a space and another square bracket, name 2, and we're going to check the box underneath so it displays invalid syntax. What did I do wrong? Maybe there's no space there. Oh, I know, it's the ampersand. I need to place an ampersand in there. It's quite bloody difficult, this, isn't it? Getting this right, all the syntax. So let's try that. Yeah, I think it like that. Okay, so hopefully if we switch the views now, this will show the first name and last name together. So let's run that. Yep, and indeed it has done. The only thing is that there's no space between the first name and last name. So we can get that now. So let's go back into that view, into the design view there. And what do we need to do? We need to stick another ampersand and some quotation marks with a space to tell Access that to pull out the first name, put a space in, then pull up the second name. So let's just go here. I call them speech marks. I don't know what you call them. A space and another ampersand. It's going to be something like this. There we go. that is exactly what we want. The only thing is the order in which this is presented is now different. What we want to do here is to turn name 1 and 2 off and put name over where that is. So remember, in a moment we're going to try and export this out as a CSV file with everything in the correct order, so we might as well get it right now. Okay, so let's go back into that design view. We're going to turn name 1 and name 2 off so they don't display, and we're going to drag this one across there. So hopefully, if we press run now, name. Now, I believe that name needed a capital letter, didn't it, to fit in with the rest of these formats. So let's do that. Name. Where is it? Name. So if you're following what I'm doing, that's what you need to type in that box that you probably can't see too clearly on the video. So name colon, a space, the actual field name, whatever you called it, I called it name 1. Then all that ampersand business. So it's actually, let's break this out for you. So the first bit is this ampersand and a space in the speech mark. So what that does is that will print the first name. Immediately after the first name, that will put a space because that's what's in there. And then it will join the second name. So what you're doing is you're saying each individual part. So name 1, then a space mark, and then name 2. Okay, so name 1 with the space mark, so and the space mark, and then and name 2. That's what it was all together. So let's just run that back again. Control V. There we go. That's what it looks like what you should type in. Okay, let's lose that. Run it again. That's exactly what we want. At this stage I would save the query. You could either X out of it and it will ask you to save it, or you can go up to the top corner here, click the save key. External data, you want to send that out. So export to an Excel spreadsheet. And will that go direct to CSV? No, it won't. What you're going to have to do now is 2 stages. Is export it out to an Excel spreadsheet, and then open that spreadsheet and save it as a CSV. So here we go. What can we call it? Let's first of all go to the correct folder, which is Anytone contacts, and then I do not like that word, I can't say it, concatenated output, and I'm going to just say XLS on there just because I like to identify it in a list where you can't really tell whether it's a spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file, etc. So save as Excel workbook, yeah, just whatever your standard is. Okay. Now if we look in that folder, there's the top one there. I'm not going to say it again. Output XLS. Let's open her up. So there, now we have the names in the format that we want, so merged if you like. We should just save this out as it is, as a CSV file, and then that CSV file in turn we can import with the software into the radio. Okay, so let's save this out. Save as, and remember we use the CSV down here. Where is it? Just this one. It's just comma delimited. And I'm going to change the lettering there to CSV. Save it. Okay, so guess what? When we're looking in the list here, you can't really tell here. Oh, you can if you expand this out. But the symbol just looks like Excel, right? So my only way of telling which one's which is because I actually append that into the file name as well. So it's not the extension, it's just part of the file name. Makes it easier for me to find. Okay, so we can go into our radio software now, into the CodePlug software, the CPS. And I don't have that up, so D878 for me. Finds that wherever that is. Comport 3 for me, yep. I'm going to just read from, later no, I'm going to read from the radio. Just to be doubly sure, I'm going to write back into the radio the same thing. Okay, so like before, when I said that that's as far as we need to go in putting the contact database in, we're now going to follow the same process because we've got the better type of display to go in, i.e. it's going to print first and last name. Okay, so to get that, we're going to use the tool. We're going to import and digital contact list and search for that file that we just saved, the concatenated one. Mine was called concatenated output.csv. You should try and name these things sensibly so that you can find them and use them, because when you have to go through a lot of technical crap, the easier you make things for yourself, the easier it's going to be, right? Yeah, that's logic. So we're going to open that, click import, go and have our cup of coffee, because for sure this is going to take at least, well in my case it's 7 minutes. We can check that again in a minute. Yay! 4 minutes. Import complete. Here we go. Okay. So I am again curious just to see that what's in this CodePlug software is the first name and last name. So we can check that by going to where it says digital here. Just click on any one of these. I'm going to click on that one. Let it load up, and hopefully we're going to see in the name field the first and last name. Yep. The city looks good. State and country looks good, yeah. So I'm quite happy with that. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. So what we'll do now is we'll write that into the radio, and then we'll have another look at the radio just to see what actually displays. That's assuming that there's anybody on this time of night. Okay, so let's write her into the radio. Write to radio. Okay, and all we actually need to put in is the contact list, because the other data is all of the rest of the information that's in the public section there and digital section. So it's your settings, your memory setting, your memory settings for the frequencies and all the parameters of the radio. So we're not interested in that. All we're interested in is putting a snappy looking contact database in there. At least that's what we hope. Here we go. So you haven't got to nip off for a coffee for this one. This is going to be done pretty much inside of a minute, I would say. Okay, while we're waiting for this, if you know a different way to achieve that wonderful word of concatenation, the bringing together of those fields that's simpler than I managed to do it, I'd be pleased to hear from you. And I'm sure anybody else watching this YouTube would as well. If you'd be kind enough to write it in the comments below, you're welcome to email me. There'll be a link at the end. As my daughter would tell you, far better than I can, like and subscribe, For sure, I would like you to like the video. If you don't like it, click don't like, that's good too. We'll get a feel for it. And for sure, I'd like you to subscribe. Again, if you do, that's fantastic. And I will share the CSV file that I've just mentioned. So that's a code plug of, well, it's now the 30th of September. And I'll share it on a OneDrive or a Dropbox. You can grab it and that will save you this effort. And coming up shortly will be my email, and that'll be at the end of the YouTube after we've proved that this thing works. Oh yes, right data completed. So it's time to punch the pin number in the radio and test it. Let's hope someone's around. Thanks for watching. VA3 SII. Bye.